Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Los Angeles. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Luis Scott Vargas. We're in round number 10 early in the morning on a Sunday. And we've got a nice little matchup here, which looks like it's already underway here. Brian Kibler playing Teamer Tempo. And he's playing against Isaac Sears, who's on an aggressive deck himself, but it's of the Obzon variety. As you can see, both players with their respective tri-lands really kind of flying the flag here early. Kibler's got a nice start here with Rattleclaw.
The tri-lands are quite good in this format.
Yeah, they've really gone up. I wasn't sure. I remember last time that they were in Standard, which was a long time ago, they saw not a ton of play, a little play, but now we've kind of seen them everywhere.
Well, last time they were in Standard, there was a couple of things going on. One, Jund was really the only shard that had a very firm, this is a shard deck.
And they were the ones that were in it.
Yeah, so Savage Lands saw a lot of play. And then the other was that there was a lot more good lands to compete with that at the time.
Yeah, Vivid Lands and all that.
Right. So I actually think that...
I mean, there's a lot of good lands in Standard now.
Well, there definitely are, but they're ones that synergize well with the tri-lands. We see Isaac Sears with Windswept Heath plus Sandstep Citadel, kind of enabling a turn 2 Fleecebane line into turn 3 NFNs if he has it.
Yeah.
I think it's a real big success, for Khans that all the clans are valid, constructed archetypes. I think that's important.
I think that's huge. Whenever I see these things, I always kind of figure that one's not going to make the cut, So far, they all have.
Hair of the Wilds is one of the more important cards in this matchup. Both players, have access to, I guess, 6 combined, 4 on Kibler's side, 2 on Isaac's side. And the fact that they're both playing, 3 mana 4/4s and 4 mana 4/4s
yes.
or 4/5s or 5/5s. The 2-drop that trades for all those cards is a valuable one. And Pelucranos can't even get around that.
No, it can't.
Pelucranos fights, air, then he just dies.
He just dies. No, Hair of the Wilds is really, really interesting in this matchup. It just does not match up well against the other people's creatures.
Yeah, it's the kind of card that when you first see it, you're like, okay, this looks like a good card in Limited. I don't know if it's going to be good and constructed. Turns out it's pretty good and constructed.
Yeah, it's decent. In fact, it was good enough to kill here for Isaac Sears.
Yeah, he's
I think, did he have his one of Ulcerate there?
Yeah, I mean, he is very much playing the Sigrist list, and the one of Ulcerate's part of that. But that takes him off curve, too. I mean, he has Herald of Torment and Obzon Charm in hand, and he's spending turn 3 playing a 1-mana spell instead of playing a 3-mana spell is always kind of unfortunate.
He did use the battle for 3 with the Fleecebane Lion.
Yeah, and that's part of the incentive. Fleecebane Lion is also a fantastic card. I mean, I remember when Watchwolf was printed, and I was like, "Whoa, this card's good." Watchwolf is actually the same card as Fleecebane Lion without the monstrous ability.
Yeah,
the monstrous ability is very good.
Yes. Fleecebane Lion, one of the kind of cards that Brian Kibler likes to play as well. He likes to play cards that are really good in the early game, but also good in the late game. And Fleecebane Lion is exactly that.
Kibler's got a couple options here. He's got Ashcloud Phoenix in hand and Crater's Claws. So you don't want to let the Fleecebane survive too long because it ends up going monstrous. But when your opponent's on 3 mana, you can wait a little while. So you could be in okay spot.
All right, so it looks like both players think that they're racing here as Kibler plays Savage Knuckleblade, gives it haste and fights. And that's going to drop Isaac Sears down to 11, putting Kibler significantly ahead in the damage race currently. But this turn's going to be huge for Isaac. The 4-drop turn is a big one.
Yeah, and even though Isaac could kill the Knuckleblade while Kibler's mana's tapped, I suspect just running out of Siege Rhino and then attacking, because it puts you ahead in the race. And if Kibler's not tapping his mana, then you're not as worried. Kibler isn't on 6 lands, he's on 3 in a Rattleclaw. So he's not going to be able to keep up mana to protect the Savage Knuckleblade for, all that often in the next couple turns. Because Isaac has got, 4 valid options there. He could Hero's Downfall the Knuckleblade, he could Obzon Charm it, he could play Siege Rhino. I guess playing Herald of Torment is the least defensible of those options because you're 1 mana away from bestowing it where it's much more powerful.
Right.
But yeah, I like this play.
I like that too. Just get Siege Rhino in there. That's going to bump him back up to 14, put Kibler down to 10. Like you said, Luis, now he's ahead in the damage race, and he's got a nice blocker here. Now, the Knuckleblade can get pumped to get through it, so so Kibler's basically able to free roll the attack here if that's what he wants to do, but he does have to start becoming a little concerned about facing 7 power and toughness and maybe the possibility of another Siege Rhino next turn.
Yeah, and this is why playing the Siege Rhino is good. Even though Kibler, once he has all his mana on tap with Knuckleblade, that's dangerous. if Kibler attacks, Isaac doesn't block, but then Kibler has to do something. He has to tap his mana for something, otherwise he's just going to lose the race, which then gives Isaac a chance to use his charm or Hero's Downfall to remove the Knuckleblade if he wants to.
Right. Now also the Fleecemane line's super awkward for Kibler, right? Because he doesn't want to let Isaac hit a land next turn and go monstrous, and he's going to have a really, really tough time getting through a Fleecemane line in the long term here.
Even if Isaac just monstrouses the Fleecemane line, it now starts blocking Kibler's Knuckleblades forever.
Right. And this is the beauty of Savage Knuckleblade here, is that it can attack and use threat of activation, meaning he has the ability to pump it to kill the Siege Rhino, which prevents Isaac Sears from actually being able to cast it. And yeah, Kibler's going to respect the Fleecemane line. He's going to play an Heir of the Wild, so a nice turn for him, but also the ferocious enabled Crater's Claws takes out the Fleecemane.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was talking about. That's the kind of turn that you need to do to win in Standard. Is Kibler on 4 mana, even missing a land drop on turn 5 here, or turn 4, is able to play 2 relevant spells to the board. He basically dealt with Siege Rhino and Fleecemane for just 4 mana.
That's pretty excellent.
That gets him ahead. That's basically having 2 turns in the space of 1. Isaac's playing 1 spell a turn the rest of the game. It does not look like he's very close to being able to play 2 spells a turn. So given that Kibler was able to, that kind of moves the momentum back in Kibler's favor. Isaac can still kill the Heir and then just smash with the Siege Rhino, putting Kibler to 6, but that's much less of a good race. And then
Kibler can smash back for 8.
Yeah, Kibler could actually just attack for 6 and then cast a Crater's Claws for lethal.
Yeah.
If that happens. So this puts Isaac in a much less good spot than he was previously. Isaac could also just kill the Knuckleblade and then maybe just pass and have Siege Rhino facing off against Heir, and then kind of hope to draw a 5th land to either bestow the Herald or just kill the Heir next turn with a different removal spell.
That's an interesting spot here. This is one of those really tempo-based games where one slip up, one person misunderstanding their role or not understanding how the next turn or 2 could go is going to be really punishing. Isaac, you can see he's been deep in the tank for a while here, and he really should be. Like, if he screws up this turn, he's just going to lose the game.
Yeah, and this is Kibler's turn 4, Isaac's turn 5. This game's not going to last more than a couple more turns.
Right. What is he going to go for here? Hero's Downfall the Heir and smash. All right, so Isaac feels like he is the one who's in the driver's seat. Remember, one of the things that players will be thinking about are what are the cards that my opponent can have, and are they relevant to my plan, right? Like if Kibler just has Crater's Claws here, Isaac might just be content with saying, well, I'm going to lose to Crater's Claws either way, so I'm not going to play around it. I don't know if that's actually true, but... Yeah,
and Kibler looks like he has Ashcloud Phoenix, and it looks like he might have a second Crater's Claws, but... If he does, then he wins the game. But if he doesn't, then he has to worry about cards like Herald of Torment and whatnot. Kibler now deciding, because he's got the red card in his hand is Ashcloud Phoenix, so that's going to make the decision a little tougher. How do you end up playing this such that you threaten to kill Isaac but don't die to either Siege Rhino or Herald? If he attacks wrong here, then he could die to either of those cards.
Absolutely. Kibler's doing math. You see the telltale tap on the table with the fingers. That's always counting up something. And looks like he's going to attack with Savage Knuckleblade, dropping Isaac down to 5. And what's the follow-up play? Heir of the Wilds and a morph. So this is the
You don't
Ash
normally
Cloud.
see the Phoenix morphed here. And Kibler took a line that died to the Herald of Torment, not Siege Rhino. He played around losing the Siege Rhino by putting enough toughness out that he could block and then not get drained out. But Isaac drew the 5th land, bestowed the Herald, and attacked over for 7.
And that was the plan for Isaac, right? Was to hit that land drop untapped and get in there for lethal.
And that was a quick game.
It was. Let's take a look at our secondary match here. Patrick Chapin. He finished the day X-1 yesterday, I believe, and he's up against Valentin Mako. And looks like they're still in game 1 here. And
judging by the amount of tokens,
we've got a lot of permanents. It is always funny to see the different styles of how players set out their permanents. We have Mako on the right with the patented lands in front of creatures. You've dabbled.
I only play my lands in front of my spells when I'm on stream.
Yeah, it just drives me absolutely nuts. And then you'll mix it up.
I'll switch it from game to game.
It's just I can't stand it. But Patrick Chapin has his own way of doing it as well. Each land has its own little place. He always keeps them all separate like that. He doesn't pile them up.
His terrain does not, ever group together.
No.
And we've got wingmate rocks on both sides. I mean, initially it looked like Mack was very far ahead because he had 2 pairs of wingmates.
Yeah.
But it looks like Chapin's got his own wingmate. So if Mackle doesn't have an answer to those, then the attacks are a lot less good than the blocks. Because if you attack, your opponent can double block and then a wingmate dies. That being said, 4 attacking against 2 makes that a little tougher.
All right, so Chapin's at 13, Mackle's at 8 here.
Well, it looks like Mackle's pretty happy with how this is going. Mackle also gains 14 life off this attack.
Yes, he does. He's like, math, 7 times 2.
And it looks like if Mackle's got a couple lightning strikes in hand, then he might just be able to burn Chapin out. Actually, you can even see the life totals there. It looks like Mackle going to 22. Chapin wanting to double block here and seeing if he can afford to do so.
This would have him taking 3, 6, 9, 10, 11.
Maybe figuring he can't beat a lightning strike regardless, which,
This is going to put him to 2. And there's lightning strike. All right, so Valentin Mackle picks up game 1 there. Mackle travels to a lot of the North American GPs from Europe.
Well, this case was kind of a freebie because everyone coming back from Hawaii gets to, kind of go through Los Angeles on their way back home.
On the way home. But he actually does fly over from Europe for GPs that aren't, on the way to a Pro Tour.
This is true.
Not that many people do that. There's plenty of GPs now in either continent for Europe and for North America.
Yeah, there are a couple of reasons. One is that sometimes there are spurts where there's like a bunch. Like, I think part of the reason he came and played at Grand Prix Albuquerque last year was there was just a stretch with multiple US GPs in a row. So if you can get like a 2 or 3 for 1, that makes the trip a little better.
Yeah.
And then sometimes there's a particular format you really want to play. Actually, I remember talking to Randy Buehler last night when he was Eric Lauer broke Memory Jar.
Yeah.
They flew to Europe to play a European GP back when this was just unheard of.
That just wasn't a thing,
because they just really wanted to play, a game or a tournament with Memory Jar, and then they both made top 8.
And then it got banned as a direct result.
And Isaac actually had a nice run himself. I mean, not only is he 9-0 up a game here, but he also is going to be on the like I said, the U.S. national team, which is interesting to see because he's joining Owen Turtenwald as well. And,
yes.
As well as Neil Oliver.
Neil Oliver too.
So and I don't recall their 4th, but it sounds like they have a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Neil getting we actually covered him getting 2nd at Grand Prix Oakland. To Huey Jensen.
To Huey, I remember that.
And then after he won Grand Prix Vegas, the largest Grand Prix of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, he won the biggest Manchu tournament ever. By volume.
You have to be a true master to win that Grand Prix.
That was a crazy event. What does Sears have there? What is that?
Looks like a token of some kind.
Is it inspirational quotes or something?
And it looks like it's Andrew Beckstrom as the last member of the U.S. team.
Oh, it's Andrew Beckstrom?
Yeah, who...
Great.
I remember someone telling me yesterday he was good as well, so...
Yeah, he is. Yeah, we've covered him on the
awesome.
on the GPs before. This must be a sideboarding guy.
It sounds like the best U.S. team we've ever had. At least Bonfire's not leaving
We
this
can't fight a Bonfire.
Yeah.
Is that a sideboard guide or what is that?
No. That's one of the
what
platinum tokens or Hall of Fame tokens. Because it's like the stats on the back, and then so it could be like, I saw Mackle had Stanislav Sivka's card as one of the rocks.
Oh, okay.
It's the ones they give out now.
Seemed like kind of a weird time to catch up on your Pro Tour
sometimes
history.
you gotta know, when someone's Pro Tour debut was or how many top 8s they have.
Gotcha. See, he made a face.
Yep.
That's kind of cute, huh?
I've seen him do that before.
It's way too much work for me, but I think it's kind of cool. I like it. Do you think he ever makes it like a frowny face?
Only when his opponent's mulligan. He does it as a way to taunt them. Actually, Patrick Chapin's
passive.
Patrick Chapin's only loss yesterday. The guy beat him and then took he was like, hey, take a selfie with me.
I heard
He
that.
reaches across and just takes a selfie of himself, like thumbs upping. But you know, Patrick's a good sport.
Patrick's a professional, but I know a lot of players that wouldn't handle it as well as Patrick might. That was funny though. I got a lot. I mean, just picturing that scene in my head.
As long as it's done with no malicious intent, I don't have a problem with stuff like that. When someone's just excited that they won, you know, that is well within the bounds. I think that people who get angry over that sort of stuff need to just kind of relax.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, it is tough, right? Because you always do have to consider the other person, and they took a tough loss, and so it's not really fair to.
Again, I'm not saying I would do this. Like, for example, when I win, I don't, you know, thrust up my hand. Good games.
Yeah.
Because I don't. I feel like it's better. You know, if the loser wants to offer a handshake, they certainly can. Whenever I lose, I always offer a handshake.
Yep.
That being said, if I lose and my opponent offers a handshake, I'm always going to shake their hand.
Yeah, me too.
I've
heard debates about that, and I don't even know why it's a debate at all.
Yeah, I think it's people just being a little too touchy. I mean, you have to realize that losing's not fun, and people don't always feel great when they lose.
Right.
So that's why I try to minimize how my opponent, you know, the feel bads, because my opponent, again, you don't like to lose, but there's just really no excuse not to be a good sport about it. I mean, we're all here to play a game, and we're all here to have fun.
Right. Yeah. I think some of it gets lost in the semantics a little bit too of the words we happen to use, which is good game. Because I think some people take it literally and say, but the game wasn't good, I didn't draw any lands or whatever, and it's you know, I think you should read between the lines in that case and just understand that they're just saying, like, you know,
good game means
we played.
Like, you know, we played a match, a good sportsmanship match. We didn't, you know, nothing happened that would make that otherwise, even if someone got mana screwed or, you know, Kibler mulliganed this game. But Kibler's not going to be like, oh, it's not a good game, I mulligan, because that's,
right.
You know, he understands that that's not how it works.
Right. All right, so we're underway here. Kibler has wooded foothills, nomad outpass.
It feels like you lose value when you don't play a tap land on turn 1.
It kind of does, doesn't it?
I mean, because you do.
How about when you don't play a land on turn 2? Is that
you
a loss of value?
Isaac, you know, smelling blood here. He doesn't even have a 2-drop, and it looks like he sided in a Johnny, but, you know, Kibler not playing a land on turn 2 means it doesn't really matter.
He doesn't have one on turn 3 either.
My guess is that Kibler's already, you know, very far behind if Isaac has a play this turn, which looks like he's got a Rakshasa here or a Fleecemane. And if Kibler misses this turn, he's got almost no chance.
And he did miss this turn. How many, you think he's got like Rattleclaw Mystics floating around in his hand? Would that prompt a 1-land keep?
Yeah, I think that when you're on 6 cards and he feels like Rattleclaw Mystic, Lightning Strike, Savage Knuckleblade, I don't think that's an unreasonable keep at all.
Okay. Well, unfortunately for him, though, even whether it was reasonable or not, doesn't seem to be super relevant here to Isaac Sears as Siege Rhino joins the battlefield. Fleecemane line gets into the red zone, and this thing's going to be over very quickly if Kibler can't find a land. And frankly, even if he can, and there's the handshake we just mentioned, even though Kibler obviously had a miserable time, you see he's a good sport, and he says, you know, you got me.
Yeah.
And he's going to now explain his thought process to Isaac, which is a pretty common thing, and Kibler's willing to say, you know, look, I took a risk and it didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, he's all realistic about these things. I kept a lot of 1-land hands at the Pro Tour, some worked out, some didn't. You just, I mean, when you're playing Ascendancy combo, it's just part of the package.
All right, so let's jump back over to Patrick Chapin versus Valentin Mako. We saw Valentin take down game 1 off the back of a really impressive board state, but let's see what, here's a nice hand here. Remember, Mako's playing this Mardu deck here. There's a Butcher of the Horde you can see there, a pair of Crackling Dooms, which is a card that really did well at the Pro Tour. There's also a Rabble Master and a Lightning Strike. So Patrick Chapin has a Thoughtseize on the stack here. What are we looking at here, Luis?
I would take the Mountain. That would make his hand really, really bad. But
you see that Mako has pulled that aside.
But given that, yeah, I think Rabble Master makes the most sense because there's 1 3-drop threat and 3 removal spells that cost 2 or 3 mana. So if you don't take Rabble Master, I think you're risking it. We also don't know if Mako put the card from Temple on top or not. It looked like he might have because it was a Mountain, which you would keep there. If you know he put the card on top, looking at that hand, you know it's a land. I mean, there's basically no card he would keep except maybe a Seeker of the Way, but those might even get boarded out.
Okay.
So given that,
so you think he is going to hit turn 3?
You assume he's going to hit a turn 3 Rabble Master, so you can't really play otherwise. Looks like Chapin's setting up for a Courser of Crufix here.
Yep, correct. And the rare double cut from Valentin Mako. We got to see that card. Let's see what we're looking at here, Patrick.
So it looks like Mako would like to hit a black mana to start casting Crackling Dooms.
You just chain them together. Taking out what he's got right now.
Red Temple is not exactly what he wants, but it looks like he left it on top. Read the Bones, what Chapin had on top, and that's a pretty good combo with Courser. I mean, Chapin naturally hit the temple here anyway, but if he hadn't, you can still read and, you know, just basically get another shot at doing so.
Chapin loves read the bones.
So does Huey, actually. Or maybe that's Reed Duke, I don't remember.
No, that's a little different. All right. So Temple of Silence is going to reveal a murderous cut, and I think Chapin's pretty happy to just leave that there. He's going to battle for 2. And what's the follow-up? Is he reading the bones? Yeah, he is. All right.
Which is not as exciting of a play as, say, playing like if we were to play a Siege Rhino this turn or some other card that pressures Valentine now that he's behind. But it's still. I mean, if that's what you have to play, you're still setting yourself up well. So, well, this is pretty good. I mean, reading into Murderous Cut, Hero's Downfall, revealing a Wingmate Rock.
Jeez.
And having a Courser in play with, it's not even clear if Valentine can cast anything relevant in his turn, though I suspect he's going to have an untapped black source here.
Correct.
And at that point, he's going to cast Crackling Doom because you don't want to let the raid trigger on a Wingmate Rock happen.
Now, would you fire it off here, or would you let your opponent get another crack at a...
Well, he's going to draw step it. He just wanted to see what Patrick was drawing next turn.
So we're in the draw step right now?
Well, we don't even have to be in the draw step right now because now that there's not a land on top, you could wait. But gotcha. I would imagine you still want to do it before Patrick plays a land, maybe? Because you certainly don't want to let him attack, given that he has a Wingmate Rock in hand.
All right. Well, if we're in the main, then he's going to get that extra life one way or another. Patrick Chapin's Obzon list, it's right in the middle.
Yeah,
it's full mid-range one.
It's pretty mid-range. I mean, this is what he ran at the Pro Tour. We looked very close to it.
Okay.
And so it's closer to like what Thiago Saporito ran, where it's not obviously very slow with, as you know, with Ari and Planeswalkers and no Fleecemans, but it's certainly not the aggro list.
Okay. Interesting to see. I mean, this is sort of the de facto Patrick Chapin style deck these days.
Yeah, we were messing with him that like, well, you know, you played Control for years, and then now that Control, you know, it's been a long time since a true Drago Control deck has been really good. I mean, Blue-Black is a deck, but it's not quite the same level as some of these mid-range decks. Like these cards have been so pushed that Patrick's now just on slamming mono mid-range. You want a Pro Tour with this deck essentially, and he's just on it now.
Yeah. Good for him though to be able to shift gears. I mean, he's been playing Magic for a long time. It's pretty easy to get stuck in your ways, and it looks like that he hasn't fallen for that particular trap. All right, so there's Crackling Doom, take down the Courser.
And Patrick unfortunately knows about the second Crackling Doom, so if he plays that Sorin that's in his hand and makes a 2/2, Crackling Doom just wipes them both out.
Yeah, that's nasty. He is going to play Sorin. Now, can he just plus Sorin here to avoid that scenario?
He can,
yeah,
and
he just did. Yeah, that's funny. Plus Sorin with no creatures on board. Not exactly ideal, but having a Planeswalker and making a play this turn that isn't going to get killed immediately is still great.
And so we actually got the deck list now. So actually taking a closer look at Patrick's deck list, it looks like he switched off the deck he played at the Pro Tour, which did have Fleeceman lines.
Oh.
And is now actually closer to Ari Lax's list, which is, again, slower and has more Planeswalkers.
Okay. All right, so Valentin Machel has a nice one here. He's got Goblin Rabblemaster to start putting pressure on Sorin with a token immediately, and he gets to have a token, so he's one token up now. Even if Chapin immediately kills the Rabblemaster, there will be an incidental token floating around. That's pretty nice. Another land drop here for Chapin. See, he's got a Johnny in his hand.
And Ajani not quite as relevant.
Yeah, he needs creatures, right?
He definitely wants to make sure he kills the Rabblemaster this turn, but because of Murderous Cut, he can actually do that fairly efficiently. But he's just gonna sit back, and maybe if he also doesn't want to tap out, because if he tapped out for Ajani and say Murderous Cut, he would Butcher of the Horde could eat the Goblin token and then come across and kill a Planeswalker. Machel's got plenty of options here, but he knows that Chapin has multiple removal spells, so as he tries to leave his main phase, it looks like Hero's Downfall is going to happen. Patrick debating casting Murderous Cut on a Goblin.
Yes, he is. That token is really annoying. It's keeping Soren from being able to make a vampire, essentially.
Yeah, if Soren goes up from 5 to 3 to make a vampire, it's immune to Crackling Doom. So killing the token makes sense. Patrick, of course, waiting until Valentine attacked just so that Butcher of the Horde wouldn't, have haste and attack.
And there's Butcher of the Horde and a land drop to follow up. By the way, we have the shaky hand mirror here, too. Both of these guys.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's a nice one for Patrick Chapin.
Yeah,
Elspeth.
He's got some options here. I mean, he can cast Elspeth and just kill the Butcher. He can make a bat with Soren. He can also cast Utter End if he wants to kill the Butcher. Casting a Johnny, again, it seems a little riskier because you set yourself up into something that doesn't affect the board. He does have to play on both Crackling Doom and Lightning Strike, so looks like he's going to go with the Utter End, just plussing Soren.
That's interesting. Now Soren's ultimatable here, right?
Yeah, Soren's ultimate goes at 6, and it turns into the Abyss on Valentine Mackle. It's a sacrifice creature every turn.
Right. That's got to be pretty good against Mackle. He never really gets a foothold.
Yeah, I mean, even though Mackle's got a lot of tokens, it's still pretty solid.
Yeah, and he's already gone through 2 Rabble Masters, right? So...
Yeah, and now Patrick's forcing Mackle into a situation where he has to, Lightning Strike Soren just to keep Soren off of an ultimate.
I like this. Patrick Chapin really utilizing the pressure from a Planeswalker ultimate here. And it looks like he's going to start netting cards out of the deal. Yeah, there it is.
He's getting much more value now than if he had been minusing Soren. And now he knows that Mackle's last card is just Crackling Doom, so he can play around that pretty easily with Elspeth. Or even a Johnny, if he could just never put a creature out.
Chapin has maneuvered quite nicely here. Also, he has the ability to close out the game pretty quickly if he goes Elspeth into a Johnny with just the tokens left over. He can just distribute counters and just put up a really fast clock. Mackle has no defense here.
Looks like the Planeswalker is ticking up as they tend to do.
Yep. And things are looking pretty rough for Mackle. He got game 1 off of a really impressive board state, but Chapin has been able to just kill every single thing he's done. There's a Read the Bones.
Yeah, Read the Bones would have been good a few turns ago, but now that there's 2 Planeswalkers in play instead of just 1, it's going to be a little tougher for Mackle to get out of this. It's not inconceivable, but it is going to be difficult, especially if Patrick gets a hit with 3, 2, 1 Elspeth tokens because of Soren, and it, gains 6 life, it deals 6. It's going to be really tough for Mackle. Mackle looking for cards he has Banishing Light and Hero's Downfall that can directly kill Planeswalkers, but other than that, he doesn't have a whole lot.
Elspeth being the one that's going to get out of control the quickest for Mackle does he have ways to get rid of tokens? Can he sweep the board here? It feels like that would kill all his stuff.
Yeah, I doubt Mackle brought in cards like End Hostilities or Anger of the Gods, so right. I think he's more going to be looking at just using 1/1 removal, maybe trying to get a Butcher of the Horde into play. He does have Glare of Heresy. That does also kill Elspeth.
Okay, so stage 1 is complete, but unfortunately, he's still facing down 3 soldier tokens and an active Soren. And he's also going to be facing down a Johnny here. He could be taking, 9 here with lifelink? Yeah, doesn't even bother, though. I think Chapin's just going to play the grind game.
Yeah, I think now is when you just want to slam Wingmate Rock.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be heading to game 3 pretty shortly here. Not a whole lot Mackle can do to get out of this.
Looks like he found an Elspeth, but this is one of the big pluses for Wingmate Rock, right? Is that Wingmate Rock just plays beautifully around Elspeth.
Yeah, Wingmate Rock is actually one of the reasons I think Elspeth, still quite good, but at Pro Tour Journey and the Nyx, we saw 4 Elspeths in a lot of the lists. You don't see that often. You see some lists that previously would play Elspeth playing 0 because of cards like Wingmate Rock.
And Patrick Chapin is counting up how much damage he can do here.
Deciding whether playing a Johnny is relevant and is going to go with doing so. I think Mackle's just trying to get more information here before he concedes. And he's gotten enough information.
All right. A big sigh there from Mackle, but for us it's exciting. We're going to get a game 3 here. I like that. This is the last match down in the feature match area.
And we've got our turbo match to come as well.
Indeed.
So it looked like Patrick actually cited in end hostilities there. So he's worried about getting overrun by tokens and or wingmate rocks. So should be interesting to see if the game actually plays out in such that end hostilities is good versus playing out in a way that, you know, they both have 3 creatures in play and end hostilities doesn't do a whole lot. He might be playing around, you know, some sick equipment or bestow cards out of Mackel's deck as well.
So Tamada Ryoichi defeats Carlo Falsis as well in the feature match.
That was the
area.
other pair of 9-0s.
Correct. Ryoichi's on Obzon.
Looks like the Obzon aggro deck.
And then
Obzon aggro had 2 9-0s. Interesting.
his opponent was also on Obzon.
Yeah, but looks like more of the
I see
kind
a
of
few
separated list.
Planeswalkers,
So
yeah, in the middle. Yep. Looks like these. I feel like both of these decks have a lot of flexibility out of the sideboard to sort of change their role or change what they're trying to do. Is there a lot of jockeying going on here?
mostly, I think Patrick has a little bit more flexibility because he's a little bit more controllers to begin with and has planeswalkers which synergize well. But Mackel can side in a couple Elspeths of his own, so it is actually pretty close.
And I think he did bring it in. I'm pretty sure he drew one there at the end and just didn't play it just to not show Patrick.
Yeah, and Patrick, even as we see cards like Lily on the Vest, you know, sitting there, his deck is ultimately a control deck, but because of cards like Siege Rhino and Wingmate Rock, he can actually apply pressure. But, you know, that's kind of typical of a lot of these mid-range decks. Like, you know, the deck that Mackel and Brad are playing, yeah, they have aggressive cards like Goblin Rabblemaster, Hordeling Out, Berserker of the Way, but they also have, you know, cards like Butcher the Horde, Sorin, Wingmate Rock, Elspeth, Sarkhan. Both decks are suited to play control or aggro, depending on what the game demands.
Right. Does Mackel, like, is his list here? It is right here. So he's got Banishing Lights in the board.
Yeah.
The Read the Bones, which he did bring in. He's got 2 End Hostilities, which is certainly a pivot, you know, for what he's doing in
Right.
game 1.
And I'd imagine those are more for decks like Green Devotion. When a lot of Patrick's 5 and 6 mana threats are planeswalkers, and hostilities loses a little bit of value.
For sure.
And we saw Patrick bring it in, so it clearly goes with what he's trying to do, but it's possible that Mackel does not want the same thing.
It's actually really interesting looking at Mackel's sideboard. It looks like he's just fully moving over into control if he wants to. I mean, Banishing Light, Read the Bones, End Hostilities, Glare of Heresy, Elspeth, Magma Spray, and Anger of the Gods. Like, all but 2 of those, maybe even all but 1 of them are you know, controlling type cards as opposed to cards that are looking to,
Yeah, and we saw this of Brad's deck at the Pro Tour as well.
Yeah, with the red-white one?
Yeah, where he was aggressive game 1 and sided into control game 2.
Yeah, so he must have taken a similar tack here with Mardu.
It's like a lot of the cards, you know, are in the middle so much, like Siege Rhino. No, that's clearly not in the Mardu deck, but the Siege Rhino type of cards where if you side in cards that are above Siege Rhino, you know, slower than it, you can be a control deck. And if you side in cards that are smaller than it, you can be an aggro deck. So the same deck can play all the roles pretty easily.
That's interesting. That's cool to look at the Siege Rhino as sort of the dividing line. All right, so Mackel's going to be on the play here. And they're both keeping. So Nomad Outpost to kick things off means that his mana is off to a good start.
And both players, it looks like, have decided that End Hostilities is a card they want in their deck after board, because I think Mackel has one in his hand. I mean, he certainly has a Wingmate Rock, but...
That's got to favor Patrick, right, with all the Planeswalkers?
I think so. I think that, Mackel has Planeswalkers as well, so it's not completely one-sided, but Patrick is more of a Planeswalker deck. Like, you know, Courser of Krufix is better with Planeswalkers than Goblin Rabblemaster is, for example.
Right. And both players have very similar openings. Scrylands and Trilands. Chapin doesn't like what he sees and passes it down to the bottom.
So this is where Mackel would like a Rabblemaster. And I think that's the card he drew this turn. He did scry it to the top, perhaps.
He maybe did. All right, so nice one here for Mockel to get things going. Remember, he's also on the play, so pretty ideal spot.
Yeah, and if Chapin doesn't have removals, well, it looks like he's got that covered. Yeah, with Bioblade at the very least. Things could get out of control, but it looks like we're not going to have a Rabble Master just running away with the game quite yet. Chapin hoping to snag 2 Rabble Masters with a Bioblade here.
You can always hope. Would Mockel play it if he had it?
He might. Depends if he knew whether Chapin had Bioblights in his deck. Because you get wrecked pretty hard by Bioblight if you do that.
But having 2 Rabble Masters is pretty sweet too. You get both tokens going into a board with no creatures.
Yeah, you do end up in a lot better shape against something like a Hero's Downfall. So
now, this is where things get kind of interesting on Mockel's side. I mean, he just went Goblin Rabble Master into Read the Bones. Kind of
it's
not what you would
not
expect.
the start you normally see, but Read the Bones is good in this matchup, and again, it helps transition the deck into a more of a controlling role, which looks like both players are kind of aiming for. We can see the end hostilities in Mockel's hand.
Does one have to be wrong in that scenario?
It's likely that one is wrong if they're both aiming for the same role, but it's not necessarily true. Like it's possible that this post-board configuration is how you want to be for both decks. It's not, I mean, it might be that both decks are better at playing control in the matchup than they are at playing aggro. So even if your opponent's a little better at playing control, you still don't want to be the aggro deck against them because that plays into their hands.
I see.
That being said, it's hard to know what's right or what's wrong in terms of like, should you boarding cards like end hostilities? And it very well could be wrong for Mockel to do it or for Chapin to do it. You have to actually test the matchup a lot more than both players probably have because, this is a pretty new standard, and they just came off the Pro Tour.
Gotcha. All right, Chain of the Rocks. Nice one here is going to take down Siege Rhino and clear the way for Ye Old Goblin token to knock Chapin right back down to 20 where he started.
And this is the power of Chain of the Rocks. Mockel getting to make 2 very good plays this turn, killing a Siege Rhino and playing a Butcher, which leaves him in perfect position to slam Wingmate Rock or Elspeth next turn after Chapin presumably taps out to deal with just the Butcher.
Right.
Since Chapin's not a deck that can play too many cards at the same, in the same turn.
He just drew End Hostilities.
And that's not bad. End Hostilities is the kind of card that could get Mockel into trouble. If, let's say Mockel next turn attacks and plays Wingmate Rock, End Hostilities could really get him. But there's a chance Chapin just plays it this turn, in which case Mockel can just play Elspeth and plus it, which puts him in a very good spot.
All right, this will be interesting to see how Chapin attempts, like if he's got spot removal for the Butcher of the Horde, or if he even wants to use up some life total to try to get maximum value off of End Hostilities. That's also a possibility here.
Yeah, he could take a little bit more damage, but I think he's just going to go for the End Hostilities.
Off, yeah.
And part of the reason for that is Chapin has a Siege Rhino in his hand, it looked like. And if you play your creature instead of the Wrath and the Butcher flies over to the Siege Rhino and Mockel plays another creature, your Wrath just got so much worse.
Right. Siege Rhino, another reason why Elspeth probably isn't seeing quite as much play is you can just attack into those tokens and kind of clean them up and still get some damage.
So even though Elspeth can minus and kill Siege Rhino, she doesn't do a very good job of blocking it, which means that if they have a Siege Rhino plus even just like a Courser, Elspeth minus is just not that effective in the play.
Right. All right, but we're going to see Elspeth plus here and make some tokens. So Mockel, just as he drew it up, put out some pressure, had it swept away, but has a really nice follow-up play with Elspeth.
And Chapin deciding whether to play Sorin or Siege Rhino, because playing Abzan Charm doesn't really do a whole lot for him. But I would imagine playing Siege Rhino is a little better. The Elspeth minus kills it, and then you get attacked, which isn't great for you, but Chapin's not in a situation where he has a great play no matter what he does.
Right.
Like if he plays Sorin and minuses, then the 3 tokens attack into the bat, 2 get through, kill the Sorin, 3 more tokens get made. So either way,
yeah, you're falling behind pretty quickly.
You're not interacting with Elspeth in the way you want to.
Right.
This is where Hero's Downfall and Utter End would be fairly good, but you can't always have the right removal at the right times.
What if Chapin had a card like Read the Bones here? Would he?
Well, he does. He has Abzan Charm. He can draw 2 cards.
Try to find a Hero's Downfall.
He might actually be so far behind that he wants to Abzan Charm to Hero's Downfall. The problem is if you miss there, you're kind of dead. Assuredly just lose. Whereas if you play Siege Rhino, this turn isn't great for you, but at least you don't just lose.
And you're forcing Mockel to do something.
Yeah. This also lets you next turn play Charm to draw 2 and play Sorin, like play 2 spells in the same turn. Because next turn you'll have 7 mana and you can play a 3 and a 4. Whereas if you play a 3 this turn and have 2 4s in your hand, you can't play 2 spells next turn.
Okay. And interesting on Makel's side as well, he's got a wingmate rock in his hand, which he could definitely get active if he wanted to. But he's got to worry about maybe a second end hostilities.
And here the end hostilities in Makel's hand not looking great either.
No, it's not.
Though, you know, because Elspeth lives, he could end up in a spot where he casts end hostilities and just uses Elspeth. I kind of like just using Elspeth to kill the Siege Rhino, attacking and playing a wingmate rock.
That seems sweet.
It puts you in a pretty good spot. If Chapin has none of end hostilities, it's not great.
Force. Yeah, but still you have Elspeth in that scenario, right?
But you're getting a card off Siege Rhino. You're killing the Siege Rhino for free, basically. You're giving up the ability to ultimate Elspeth, but I think if Elspeth lives for 2 or 3 more turns, you're in such good shape no matter what.
Siege Rhino down.
Tokens attack. There's no haste creatures really you really need to be worried about here, so leaving any back doesn't really make sense. And then I think you just slam the Wingmate. I mean, you've got a bunch of removal spells in hand, and any Wrath effect that kills the Wingmate is not going to kill the Elspeth, so you're still in pretty good spot. And if Chapin had a Hero's Downfall, he would have used it last turn, so you don't have to worry about that too much. If he had end hostilities, he wouldn't have, and maybe you're walking into a second one. You have to be aware of that, but you're really just trading 1 for 1. You're losing Wingmate and a bunch of tokens that you kind of got for free.
And you still have Elspeth on the battlefield to take over.
So I like this line of play. I mean, this is I think what I would be doing.
And Makel passes the turn back. So let's see what Chapin can come up with here. This is a huge turn for him. If he wants to win this match, he's going to need to do some pretty... What did he draw?
It looked like he drew Hero's Downfall. So had he cast the Charm last turn, he may have been able to downfall. So maybe that would have worked out better for him. The very risky play may have turned out to be a little bit stronger. Of course.
I mean, the question really for him is, can he win? If, like, let's say he doesn't make that play, can he win?
Yeah.
It's starting to seem less likely by the moment here.
Though Makel having Wingmate Rock would have been problematic no matter what. Like,
True.
let's say Chapin had done that last turn. You still end up in the same spot. You just have a Siege Rhino in your hand instead of the graveyard. And Elspeth's not in play, but you're still facing down 3 tokens, 2 Wingmate Rocks.
Yeah, here's where the end hostilities could be pretty great, but he doesn't have it. He used one earlier to take down Butcher of the Horde and a token,
Which set up Makel perfectly to cast Elspeth. And the problem there is, had Chapin not cast end hostilities there, Makel would have just untapped and cast Elspeth anyway, probably. So it wouldn't have gotten any better.
Okay, so take down Elspeth. That's stage 1. But what about stage 2 here?
Looks like Soren make a bat. And, resign yourself to getting hit for a bunch by some of the Wingmate Rocks, but not necessarily... you're stopping a soldier token at the very least. I would imagine that Soren is dying this turn. There's no real reason to leave that in play.
And so this is basically just buying Chapin a draw step or 2 to try to find something?
Yeah, and end hostilities, or maybe, his own Wingmate Rock if he can maneuver it so that the bat stays in play this turn. Oh, that's pretty good.
That's nasty.
This is just going to plus here. He can't attack for lethal, but he can send 2 soldiers at Soren and then the rest at Chapin.
Yeah, he's got, 14 power here? 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah.
And so Makel's
pretty easy.
Gaining 19 life here between the Wingmate Rock and the Soren. Chapin probably just taking it off, maybe hoping to draw his own Wingmate Rock. That would be one of his better outs. Though I don't think that'd actually quite do it. End hostilities would be okay, but then Makel would still have a Soren in play. So maybe Chapin's in the best spot if he just chumps one of the Wingmate Rocks and then untaps and hopes to draw end hostilities and hopes to then deal with Soren in some fashion.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. He's got Obzon Charm in his hand still, but even if he fires that off, he can't play that and hostilities in one turn. A trade for a token?
He's trading for a token and taking 8.
Soren's going to soak up 4 and put him in the bin. All right, let's see what Chapin can come up with. This is a huge turn for him. He needs to top deck something. He finds a land here.
He needs to draw 2 more cards, but
yeah,
one of them has to be End Hostilities. That's the only card that can even keep him in this game.
All right, yeah, he's got the land so he can actually play it if he were to draw it.
Looks like he drew a Courser, which is not going to do it.
Sees another Obzon Charm on top, plays the land, goes back up to 8, but that ought to do it.
Mako just gets to +1 Sorin, and even just attack with the 2 rocks will do it, but he might as well attack with everything to play around Murderous Cut.
Right.
I suppose Murderous Cut technically lets Patrick live, but...
Yep, and that's going to do it. Mackel is victorious over Patrick Chapin, so Valentin Mackel's going to stay at X and 1 in this